How are you?
This is current Sheriff Bob Gualtieri, and we're so pleased to have you. And I want to start out by saying thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You are in a room full of Tea Partiers.
Oh, that's great.
This is our election committee.
Good. Nice to meet everybody.
Yeah, welcome.
Hi.
Now the rules. Let me tell you what the rules are. Because we sure would hate to arrest you. And first of all, you have up to 10 minutes.
Okay.
Pete is the timekeeper here,
Okay.
and you got up to 10 minutes to give us an overview and introduce yourself and your experience and so forth, and kind of what your visions are, whatever you want to say.
Sure.
Then I have 10 questions. You have 2 minutes to answer each question, and he'll let us know when the 2 minutes are up, and so we just kind of keep plugging right along, okay?
Sounds great. Yeah.
There'll be no questions from the audience. These are simply the questions that'll be posed to you.
Sure.
And with that, you have 10 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, great. And thanks for the opportunity to come down and talk to you. My name is Bob Gualtieri, and I'm currently the Chief Deputy of the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. I received the appointment from Governor Scott, and I take office next Tuesday.
Oh, sorry.
Sheriff Jim Coates' last day is on Monday. And after 40 years of service with the Sheriff's Office, I think he deserves a much-needed rest and retirement and take care of his wife, who is ill. I started in the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office in 1982, working at the Pinellas County Jail. It was a great experience. Over 50% of the Sheriff's operation, in fact 52% of it, is the jail. We have 2,300 inmates as an average daily population. It's operating a city within a city in many respects. It's a huge responsibility, but it's over half the operation. Having worked in the jail with boots on the ground and spent a year there, it's a very valuable experience to me as the Chief Deputy today, and will be as the Sheriff, because it's such a big part of our operation. After working at the jail for a year, I went to the Dunedin Police Department, and I spent a year as a city police officer. Again, it was a great experience, very valuable experience, because the Sheriff is not only responsible for law enforcement, police services in the unincorporated area of the county, but for 12 of Pinellas County's 24 cities who contract with the Sheriff's Office. So having been a city police officer and knowing that perspective, knowing the challenges that the cities face, the expectations of the cities, and being able to develop those relationships with city staff is very important, because I'm a big believer in collaboration. Government needs to collaborate, they need to work together, we need to consolidate where we can, because it's a more efficient way of doing business. So that experience in Dunedin and working with the city government was very valuable to me then, and is today as the Chief Deputy, and will be as the Sheriff. I came back to the Sheriff's Office, where I spent about 15 years, and I worked throughout the entire agency. I worked in patrol up in the north end here in the south part of the county. I worked in investigative operations and burglary and criminal enterprise. I spent many years as a narcotics investigator. I was assigned to the DEA task force in Tampa, where I spent 4 years working major international drug smuggling cases. Spent a lot of time at the United States Attorney's Office and in federal court, and developed a lot of friendships. And at that point in my career, I had to make a decision about staying with the Sheriff's Office or going to law school. And after having that experience in the courtroom, kind of looked at all those lawyers and said, that's not so hard. I could probably do that. So decided to take that chance and go to law school. I went to Stetson. And like so many times it happens when you get back into an academic environment, your views change, your horizons are expanded. And I didn't end up going to the U.S. Attorney's Office. I went to work for a law firm in Tampa, Ford and Harrison, doing labor and employment work, representing all employers. And it happened by coincidence that Ford and Harrison also represented Pinellas County in its labor and employment matters. So I developed or maintained a lot of relationships, including with Sheriff Coates. And he called me one day and asked to have lunch, and the general counsel for the Sheriff's Office had retired. He asked me to come back. Well, I'm a cop at heart. I've been a cop all my life, and that's what's in my blood, and it was a no-brainer to go back. And I went back to the Sheriff's Office, thoroughly enjoyed practicing law, but went back as a general counsel. Shortly after that, the Chief Deputy at the time, who was the number 2 in the agency and oversees all the day-to-day operations, retired. And the Sheriff asked me to take that position as well. And so for the last 4 years, I have been responsible, totally responsible for the Sheriff's Office budget. And the last 4 years have been the most trying times, the most challenging times for all of us personally, in our personal lives and professional lives, and for government. And the world has changed. It's a totally different environment. And we've had to totally restructure, totally re-engineer, totally change the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office so we provide effective public safety. That is, of course, the number one priority, the number one mission, the number one objective for the Sheriff's Office is to make sure that our community is safe. Beyond anything else, that's the responsibility that we have. Now, in overseeing the budget for the Sheriff's Office for the last 4 years, we have cut the general fund budget, and again, I've been responsible for that, because we've cut the Sheriff's general fund budget by $108 million. We've reduced 616 positions, 167 law enforcement deputies, about 250 detention deputies at the Pinellas County Jail, because we've closed 8 housing units out there, and the balance are non-sworn supervisory management and support positions throughout the agency. Some people use the term, you have to do more with less. I'm not a big believer in that saying, but what I am a big believer in is you do it differently, you re-engineer it, you change the way you're doing business so you can do it effectively. Against the backdrop of all of those cuts and $108 million and 600 plus positions, for the last 2 years, we've reduced the crime rate in our service area in Pinellas County. Now, these aren't my numbers, these aren't the Sheriff's Office numbers, these come from the state of Florida, and they come from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. For the first 6 months of this year, against that backdrop, the crime rate is down yet again another 6.9%. Case closures are up and arrests are up. The way you have to approach business these days is stop talking about it. The rubber needs to hit the road. Don't whine about it. Get the job done. And that's the approach that I've taken. I'm also a big believer in intergovernmental collaboration and developing relationships with St. Petersburg, with Clearwater, with the other police departments to work together where we can to functionally consolidate. You got to check your ego at the door. You got to be willing to give it up and not take the approach when people talk about consolidations. Is consolidation's good and consolidation's fine, we should consolidate. But too many times people take the approach, yeah, don't touch my stuff. You got to touch everybody's stuff, and we've got to get the job done. So the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office is on the right track. We are making cuts. We'll continue to meet the challenges for next year. The projected general fund deficit for the county for FY13 is another $9 million. We're already working on that to meet our share of that required reduction. And at the same time, we're going to provide effective public safety, because it's about changing how we do business. It's about challenging people. It's about holding people accountable. It's about making them work and making them work smartly. I again believe in government that is efficient. It doesn't have to be big to be efficient. We have to move forward. It's about the future. It's not about going back. The ways of doing business in the past and the way that people who were in office in the past solved problems was by spending money, by adding people, by spending money. And that's history. And it shouldn't happen to begin with, and those days are gone. And probably shouldn't have been here. And if they had done it differently before, we most likely wouldn't be in the situation that we're in now. So it is about the future. It's about the long-term future and long-term stability for the Sheriff's Office. It's about having somebody in a leadership role that is willing to think outside the box, about willing to challenge people, about willing to challenge the status quo, and above all, and first and foremost, to ensure that we have a safe community. And I'm committed to that. I have the endorsement of Sheriff Jim Coates. He's endorsed me in this race. I have the endorsement of Sheriff Grady Judd from Polk County, of Sheriff David G. from Hillsborough County, of state senators, of state representatives, of about 20 sitting Pinellas County city commissioners, county commissioners, and council members, 10 Pinellas County mayors, and about 130 good business and community leaders throughout Pinellas County. And I'm humbled by that and very thankful for their support. And I think I have their support because I've demonstrated the ability to lead the Sheriff's Office, to work together collaboratively, and to make sure that we're providing that effective public safety. So, my time, close to my time? A minute? Well, I'll just leave it to the questions, and there I think that's probably, I think,
Thank you.
Hopefully I've conveyed who I am to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, first question. Explain your position on public union collective bargaining and if you support or oppose.
Well, I oppose it. I'd rather not have unions. Unions are, to me, something that's there, and I think that they hinder us in being able to make decisions that allow us to be cost effective. It's another cog in the wheel, and I oppose unions. And when I practice labor and employment law, and I represented employers with the National Labor Relations Board under the National Labor Relations Act and engaged in collective bargaining. And I don't think they're necessary. And especially in the public sector, I don't think law enforcement officers should be unionized or be able to collectively bargain. I can tell you that there's some decisions that I'd like to make that I can't make because I got to deal with the union on. And I don't think it's an efficient way to do business.
Great. Would you work with or against the federal government going door to door taking away people's guns in a crisis like Katrina?
Well, I would absolutely oppose that. Okay, the federal government has no right to do that. There's no lawful way that they could do it or should do it, and you know, I don't think that in any way, shape, or form is that the right thing, and it would be an unlawful thing to do. Now, I hope that the federal government would not engage in anything that's unlawful. There's no constitutional basis for that. There's no legal basis for them to do that. You know, that should be all handled at a local level. That's not something that the federal government should put their hand in. And I think that if it's done effectively at the local level, you don't need the federal government coming in. And one of the problems they had in New Orleans is that the local officials weren't taking care of business.
Right.
So I think we keep the feds out of it. I don't think the feds should come in and tell us what to do. And if we take care of business, and I take care of business, and we'll get it done, then that's a non-issue for us, and it wouldn't happen to begin with.
Can a county override gun laws?
Well, right now, according to Florida law, they can't. You know, the legislature just passed a law so we had to have uniform gun laws across the state of Florida. So now, under Florida law, they can't.
Okay. Would you ever consider supporting a gun registry?
No, I don't think it's necessary. You know, and one of the things about those types of registries, those types of gun laws, I can assure you that the kid down here on wherever, 16th Avenue South or on 39th Avenue North or wherever is going to go rob the store, he ain't going to register it anyway, okay? So the one that gets, it's kind of like, and I'll tell you, like on gun buyback programs, when communities and police departments do these gun buyback programs, who you're buying the guns back are the legitimate gun owners, the citizens that have them. The kid who's possessing them unlawfully or the felon in possession of firearms, he's not bringing it to buy it back. So I'm not a big fan even of gun buybacks. I'm a fan of enforcement of gun laws as it relates to those who illegally possess them. Mm-hmm. But I don't think you get anything out of that because, like you said, the people who are lawfully possessing them is that they're not the ones you're concerned about, and the other ones are not going to do it anyway. Mm-hmm. So.